listening to MCPodcasting.
So, how's it going, mate? How are you?
It's going all right, Dan. How are you? How's things?
I'm good. I just realized this is the first time we've I haven't saw you since last January.
I think so. I think it's been well over a year.
Yeah, because you came on the podcast after New Year's last year.
Is that right? Yeah.
It was. I think it was like the 20th of January last year, almost a year exactly. Jesus Christ, and we haven't talked as well. Obviously,
We haven't really spoken that much.
no, you got really good at communicating. I realized that there. I was like, once I left the cinema, you kind of told me to fuck off. Like, bye, Dan.
I never told you to fuck off with words. I did it through my actions.
So first of all, I know we don't want to make this conversation about COVID because no one wants to talk about it. But how was your 2020? I know, but I just want to ask you, friend to friend, how was your 2020? I know it was shit for most of us, but how was yours as an individual?
I got a lot of work done, got a lot of writing done. I released my first ebook, Write Your Screenplay in 12 Days, just a wee shameless plug there, got that released. Did a bit of did a road trip of Ireland, and it was gorgeous.
Really? Where'd you go to?
We basically went Sligo,
Nice.
Sligo, Roscommon, Galway, Letterkenny, Cork, and then came back up, and then we did that over like a couple of days, and it was beautiful. Like, I did like a road trip of Ireland a few years ago, maybe back 2017, 2018 or something like that, and like we stuck the motorways and stuff, and when you do not really see Ireland properly unless you're doing all these wee kind of small off the beaten track kind of roads, because it's that's the thing. Like, I knew Ireland was beautiful, but I didn't know it was that beautiful. You know what I mean?
It's ridiculously nice, especially the west coast of Ireland.
Crazy. Absolutely. Like Galway, we took like some kind of random side road that we just thought it just looked like a wee small dirt track on the map. And then going up it was like driving into the Windows screensaver. You know what I mean? You know, those a big beautiful sky, and then those those green rolling hills it was mind blowing. It was great.
It is great, because I you obviously know this here. I lived in Galway for about a year, and I was the same. The first couple of trips I used to jump on the motorway, but as you said, you see nothing of Ireland. You literally just see road. It's boring as fuck, and it's hard to drive. I was driving up every weekend and I couldn't do it. So I started going through Ireland until I got to the north. I started bouncing on the motorway there. But you see so much wee towns and so, like even town like Cavan and Monaghan, all these wee towns you never think of going near. But like, oh, these are actually pretty cool towns. There's people living here. Like, they're just normal people like you and me.
Yeah. No, it's a beautiful country. And I feel fortunate to live on this island.
Yes. So. Was that whenever the lockdown kind of ended in the summer then you went?
Yeah. And then we used a lot of Airbnbs and all that. So it was phenomenal. So
well, that's good then. That's good you got away, because this is the first year that I haven't went on like a holiday or like went anywhere in about 6 years. You know, especially in the last 5 years, the first time I haven't been to America. I was actually meant to go to America in November there for a wedding, but obviously COVID, and New York seems to be like one of the worst places to go to.
Yeah. So would you go to America every year?
Yeah. Well, it wasn't like we're not like we plan it every year. I've just seen that that's on a holiday. Let's go to New York, and then all right, let's go to New Orleans. All right, let's go to New York again. Let's go to then went to California. Not that September before. It just seemed to be like, because there's so much to do. And America's such a big fucking ass country. Like, it's like one of my brothers has been to America, I say about 40, 50 times. And I went, well, and you still haven't seen half it. You know what I mean? You can literally go to New York several times and not even see New York. Like, I've been in New York about 6 or 7 times, and I feel like I haven't been there because there's so much going on. There's so much going on.
Once you kind of get off Manhattan, it becomes so cool. Like, if you go to like Brooklyn, Williamsburg, whatever you want to call it, you know, whenever me and a group of mates were over there in 2015, and one of the best days we had, we just kind of went over to Staten Island, and we went to this random bar, and the people were so friendly, you know, they were like, they came over, they spoke to us. You know the way like in Belfast or Ireland or something like that, everyone kind of keeps themselves to themselves, especially now in these unprecedented times. But like you'd have people coming over to you, asking you where you're from, get them to sign your book, get them to pose for photos of you. You know, it's yeah. Once you kind of get away from touristy, it seems to be like the way in
Yeah.
general. Once you get away from the big touristy spots,
Yeah.
it's like you're seeing the actual proper country itself. Like, you know, same thing with Amsterdam. We went to Amsterdam, and then I just took a day to myself where I just kind of moseyed around on my own, and it
Yeah.
was one of the better days. Like, you know, so
I know it is because I've been to Amsterdam a few times, and I 3 times actually. Twice I stayed kind of outside the city, and those were the best times. But once I stayed in the city center near the red light district, you know, near
yeah,
the what the big station was, and I was like, this is
yeah,
hell. This is literally
isn't it?
hell. It's literally
Isn't it?
it was like it's so weird because I've been there and I love the city, but then I went back and stayed in a different part of the city and I hated it. I felt
Yeah,
uncomfortable. I felt dirty. But then, you as you say, you go away from the tourist areas where the
yeah,
real people live, like the real workers, everyday people in Amsterdam. You're like, this is far
yeah.
better.
I think that's in general because like whenever it's like touristy stuff, it's just it's like putting on a front or something like that, you know? Because like, have you been to the Titanic Museum?
No.
No, me neither. That's a
What would
thing. You wouldn't be
I
caught
ever
there. It's for the fucking birds. You know, I mean, you wouldn't. No, exactly. Wouldn't be caught. You're more likely to find me on the actual Titanic rather than the Titanic
Why
Museum.
the fuck
You
would I
know
do
what I
that?
mean? It's like, yeah, exactly. Like that's the thing. You know, you stay away from the touristy stuff. But
I know
yeah,
someone like one of my friends in America came over here and she was like, oh, you should go to Titanic, it was amazing and all too. Like, I'm from this city, I'm not gonna go there.
yeah,
Why would I do it? Like that look like hell. First of all, it's gonna be really expensive. You know, secondly, I know what happened. It
yeah,
stank.
yeah.
I'm sorry.
Spoilers.
Sorry. Like I've never been that. People always talk like when you go. You probably know yourself. When you go away, people always ask you where you're from. You say Belfast, and they go, "Oh, Titanic." I'm like,
Yeah,
but I don't care about it. Sorry. I feel bad that a lot of people died. Firstly and foremost, I feel
yeah.
bad.
Well, obviously, yeah, obviously
But
that.
I don't
But at the
care
same
about the
time,
story. Like I don't have attachment to the story. But like, oh, you're from Belfast. You must have this like real.
yeah.
No, I don't care. It's
I
a
mean,
ship.
it's a very typically Belfast story of something that was supposed to be amazing, not living up to its potential. You know,
Game of Thrones. Game of
Game of
Thrones. Another
Thrones,
example.
George Best.
Hey, you leave Georgie alone.
No, no, no,
The
no.
guy's a
That's the
saint.
thing.
Guy's a
Hey,
saint.
no, absolutely. But that's the thing. You know, he's like did really well, loads of talent. Can't wait to see what he does next. Oh,
Oh,
he's drunk. But
and he
oh,
left us with Colin Best, folks. Like even worse.
how dare you? How dare you besmirching a name of Callum Best?
What does
You
he?
can get.
What does he do? Sorry, I want to know this.
I know what he's doing next. He's showing up on the MC podcasting show.
Oh god! Even for him, I think that would be like. Even for us, sorry, I wouldn't even try that. There, I would feel sorry for him if he came on my show.
You're getting good guests. Like I think you could go for it. Like
Okay, yeah, but
I think you got,
that's the one good thing about this year because like obviously me and Steven aren't in the same room anymore. We just do
yeah,
through Zoom or Skype, and so we know that everyone's doing that. Everyone's in the house. No one's
yeah.
away from their home. So it's the only time of the year, only time in our lifetime that we know everyone at one point is going to be in their
I'll
house.
be at home.
So they can't they can't lie to us and say can't do it. But it's given
Can't
us
do it.
like
Busy.
busy doing what? You're fucking in the
Exactly.
house. So we have like
Get on or
get on the MC podcast and fuck's sake. But like,
well,
sorry, go ahead,
sorry, I keep interrupting. This is probably the only disadvantage of stuff like Zoom. It's like it's
Yeah.
hard to interrupt, and then as soon as one person does, it's like 5 minutes of like, you go ahead. No, you go ahead. No. Anyway, sorry, you go ahead.
No, I make it even worse. Me and Steven do it with me and Steven through this and another person. So it's 3 people. And it's just like, oh, you feel so cringy sometimes. You're just like,
Yeah.
I'm so sorry for interrupting you, sir. Keep talking. But like, but now that's the 2020 was a shit year for a lot of people. For me personally, my job was still the same. Didn't really change much apart from working from home a little bit more. But it's also given me the balls basically to ask people, here, come on the show. And
Absolutely.
I just can't stand rejection, Kieran. I can't stand it. I'm a very self-conscious person. Don't know if you know it. You worked with me for almost 2 years. You know.
You always seem like a very confident guy who didn't take nothing from no one. Anyway,
the opposite. I ran away and hid in the popcorn room. But now I've just been just I'll just ask them. If they say, no, the worst part about asking someone is them not replying to you. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like they
yeah.
read it and don't reply. It's like, just say no. I don't care if you say
Yeah.
no. I don't care. I know you're fucking successful. Don't fuck. I'm not going to name names out here. But you know what I mean?
No, that's
Cristiano Ronaldo. But you know what I mean?
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like just say no. But that's the
Yeah.
2020 for me has helped us grow the podcast in terms of downloads because we were able to just reach out to people and people come on. People, as you said, they're doing nothing, so they may as well come on and chat to us about shit. You know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, I think with rejection, I think rejection is just kind of like part of life, and it's just you're going to get a certain percentage of people who don't reply or just like flat out. I mean, I guess see people. Here's the thing: see with the people who don't reply, do you ever do follow-ups on them? Do you ever like so they don't reply? Do you not be like just resend the email? Literally, like what I have learned over 2020 is you basically want people telling you to fuck off or blocking you or something like that, and then you'll be like, oh well, I guess it's a no then. You gotta
I take that as a no.
Unless they're like, if they don't reply, hit them again, bam 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 bam, because like one thing I've learned, just like over 2020, kind of being online a bit more, is that basically interacting with people is no different from online dating. Online date, if you can get a date online, you can do what you're doing with the MC podcasting thing, like because I'm not saying I'm good at online dating. That's like the worst. It's like the worst humble brag ever. Oh, I'm really good at digitally connecting with people, but it's I'm not saying I got good, but I'm saying I worked out a few pointers that I've been able to take from that and put it into other kind of, I don't know, disciplines, whatever you want to call it. So like you gotta hit him with at least 3 messages, and if there's no response, then you just move on. Also you gotta be messaging at least like 50 people at once. You increase your odds.
Yeah.
You increase your odds by like, you get more fish if you cast a bigger net. You know what I mean? But like and that applies to like if you're trying to get people on your show, like just be bombarding people and see. You never know who you might get.
Exactly, I know. It's true. You just gotta do it. You can't expect them as to message you. But there's a few occasions, or there's a bunch of occasions where I have double messaged them and they haven't just responded, so I kind of give up. But there's been
hit them again.
But then there's occasions where it's awkward. So you send a message, they don't reply, and obviously my shite Belfast humor, that I'd be like, take that as a no, then mate, LOL.
Yeah.
And then they get back to you and they say, yeah, anyway, no problem, I'll come on the show. I'm like, oh
there
my
you
God.
go.
But now I feel like a dick. Now I feel like an asshole.
No. Isn't that so funny? How like you like the first couple of times you were like super polite.
Yeah.
And then as soon as you're slightly snarky with people, they're like, oh, and you're just, so maybe just send the snarky email first. Just be like, here, we're doing a podcast. We don't really want you on it, and you'll probably not reply to this email. So whatever.
Come on, if you want to, if we have time, you let us know, and then we'll try to fit you in. But if not, you can just wait for us to let you come on the show. Is that okay?
I think maybe the snarkiness seems to not even snarkiness, but just kind of like this is kind of like being my phrase for like kind of 2021. It's a bit wishy-washy, but it's like I kind of feel like 2021 is like the year where like you learn to let go of everything, because we're seeing old things crumble and new things rise up. I take it you probably want to talk about cinema and the cinema industry at some point. Oh my God! Do you want to segue into that now? Let's do that.
It's kind of a good thing as well, because obviously we both have the love for the cinema. We both worked in the cinema. Obviously, you worked far longer than me. We have this.
Yeah.
And for me, I always knew how much I loved the cinema, but it was even more so when they closed, because I love going out drinking. I love going to bars and all too.
Yeah.
But I think if I could pick one thing to open up again, it probably would be the cinemas, because it's just like it's a nostalgia thing as well, isn't it? Because you remember, you go to the cinema, it takes you back to when you're a kid going to see whatever you saw in the cinema. You know what I mean? As a kid and stuff, regardless of the movie. Sometimes I just went. especially when I worked in the cinema, when it was free cinema tickets, I used to go like twice a week sometimes to see the biggest pile of shit.
That's an interesting philosophy. That it would be kind of, the thing is, I'm kind of in the same area as you. Like, there are things that I think probably should be seen in the cinema, like the new Bond film. I think people, you'll probably have to see in the cinema, and June. I'm really looking forward to June, and I want to see that in the cinema. But to give my own interpretation of it, I think with like things like Mulan and those troll movies and all that kind of stuff, and Wonder Woman and all that,
they can go fuck off.
Well, no, I think they represent like a genie in the bottle, and I don't think you're getting the genie back in the bottle. Where like now simultaneously like streaming stuff is going to be part of the way forward, because do you really need this? If you're a family, like probably cinema is probably the biggest ripoff for families, I think, or it's like the biggest price hike, because you're buying for like 4 people and they all have to get their sweeties and their popcorn and all that kind of stuff. So like it seems, but like the kids don't really mind if they watch it at home. The kids aren't really used to the cinema experience. The parents like the cinema experience, but the kids on the other hand are kind of like, yeah, whatever, I'll watch, I don't know, Toy Story, whatever. I don't mind watching that from my living room. So I think in that regard, like cinema is going to like change. I think cinema is probably going to go, it's almost going to go back to what it was, where they had to do like kind of the place where I used to work kind of did, or the place where we used to work, kind of was ahead of the game in that way, because they were doing like live events and live shows to actually bring people in. They weren't just making it about the film. All the multiplexes kind of just make it about, here's your ticket, and then they just kind of push you past the gate, and then you have to kind of fend for yourself.
Into these uncomfortable seats and sticky floors.
Uncomfortable seats, sticky floors, and all that. But like, I think now it's probably going to go more the way of like, say, Broadway or like big, West End theater, where like the ticket prices will go up, but it'll be more of a show in general. It won't just be about you come and see the cinema. It's like it'll be probably like kind of like what we did, whenever we did like the Joker night and all that kind of stuff.
Great.
Yeah, it was great. It was like, that's it. I was always the thing with our place. It was always kind of like one step ahead of the curve. Like other cinemas were kind of trying to do what we were trying to do.
Because even in terms, sorry to jump in there, even in terms of the VIP screens and stuff, them seats and all too, like how long have the cinema we worked at had them for? And then it took like the other cinemas, like Movie House and all too, like 20 years to jump on board with that. There was kind of like, we should do that. So our cinema, as you said, was actually quite ahead of all the other cinemas, given that there was like no money pumped into it.
No money. They were kind of doing it off their own back, and it was a gamble, and they still kind of took risks for like what was essentially a independent cinema. And so, but for cinema at large, I think the chains are going to suffer. Like Cineworld has kind of shuttered its doors, and I don't know what is it, AMC theaters over in America. They're going to cut costs, in order to keep the business afloat, and I don't really think that's the best solution to it. I think cinema is going to see a big change. It almost feels like the old ways are kind of fall by the wayside. I think like the Disney stuff, the Marvel stuff, that's going to keep going. That's not really going to get affected. Again, I think it's going to be that middle ground of filmmaking is going to be totally wiped out, because it's weird. It's like, I know a couple of people who they're either working in the industry or they're trying to get into the industry, or they're trying to kind of like establish themselves, and I get the feeling from them that they think things are just going to snap back to normal. They're like, oh, I'm going to enter this film into festivals, and you're like, you don't need to do that anymore. You do not need to enter stuff into festivals. You can just put it on YouTube and it's fine. If you consistently work and you're consistently putting stuff out there, you will be fine. There's loads of people on YouTube who are like doing free feature films. A guy called Joel Haver, and then Cody Clark, and then Dan Lotz. So these 3 guys are like putting out, like they made films in quarantine, and because they have no budgets, or they have very limited budgets and they've got like one location, they're able to do everything themselves and they're immediately able to stick it on YouTube. And these films are great. And it just kind of goes to show that. Sorry, I know I'm kind of segueing from cinema into filmmaking
Go
here.
for it.
Sorry,
Go for it.
I'm just saying, like, it almost feels like the dawn of like the true independent cinema, which is like back in the 90s we had independent cinema, but Pulp Fiction is a Disney film, released by Buena Vista Miramax division of Disney.
Yeah.
It was kind of like they were called independent films, but really they're still like Pulp Fiction is a Disney film. And like but now you've got like equipment is so cheap. Like my phone shoots 4K. I purchased for like 30 quid. I purchased like editing software for my phone, and it does the job perfectly. I don't know if you watch any of the kind of wee stupid bits I do on.
Yes.
Thank you. Like and here's the other thing. Here is a thing which I find so interesting, and I'm trying to work out how to do it because I think someone else is going to work it out quicker than me. Do you like? First of all, sorry. This is the way I talk. I've realized over lockdown, by the way, whereas like if I'm trying to make a point, here's the point, and then I'll go la 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 la, I'll dance around the point, and people will be like, "What are you talking about?" Like do you watch Wes Anderson films? Are you aware like Wes Anderson?
Yes.
What do you think of Wes Anderson films? Do you like them? Do you not like them?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
Okay. Now, here's the thing about Wes Anderson films. Anybody could be in those Wes Anderson films. This whole idea of like, oh, Bill Murray was born to play that part, or blah blah blah, or Francis McDormand, or Bruce Willis and Ralph Fiennes. His films are so stylistic that the acting, the quality of acting almost doesn't matter. You never really have a bad performance in a Wes Anderson film because there's no real acting in those films, and the reason he uses all these big stars in his films is because the customer, or the audience, they need to see a big star to feel safe watching the film. Because there's this guy on YouTube called Uncle Roger.
Okay.
Have you heard him? He's
No,
he's
I
like
think
this.
so.
He's this Asian guy, and he does this really stereotypical kind of Asian. He does this like, my name is Uncle Roger, and he does all this. He's really like rude. He does all these. They're not prank videos. He does prank videos. He does react videos. He's very funny, but he's so rude to people. He's like this guy that like he works in like these shops, and he'd just be rude to the customer.
Okay.
These guys be like, here, can I get this, but I don't want it spicy. And he's like, are you not a man? Are you not a man? Did you have defect when you were born? This kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's very funny. I am getting to a point, Dan. Hold on. So in his video, right at the end, he includes outtakes.
Yeah, okay.
He includes these outtakes where he breaks character and he starts going, and I'm like, that's genius, because if you're a normal person, if you're watching this guy, you don't know who he is. You've never heard of him before. And part of you's like, is this what this guy's actually like? So I think he puts the outtakes in to kind of show you, I'm not actually this guy.
Yes.
So if Wes Anderson did a film and he had a lot of nobodies in it, people wouldn't get it. They'd be like, I don't understand this. Or these people are so bad actors, because you're not used to seeing these people. So now I'm finally getting to the point. It's been a long journey, but we're almost there.
I'm really excited.
So, okay. So deep fake technology.
Okay.
You could be making like, sorry, you like, have you seen any of my like face swap things that I do?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
When I do them, yeah. You could basically, like, that's a Snapchat filter. You could technically, if you like, I'm looking into working out how to actually do it on my phone. You could technically have.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
You could technically have, Jordan Peterson, Hugh Jackman, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone in your films, and you're making them for no money. You're putting them out there for free. People will watch that. They'll be like, oh, I like Brad Pitt. And if you get someone who can do a decent enough Brad Pitt impersonation, there is a chance that they're more likely to watch it. Go ahead.
And this is probably going to stop George Clooney and Brad Pitt from even acting. They just sell the rights to other people and sit
Yeah,
in the house and make
yeah.
all the money. Like, sweet, they can
You
just
get
do a face swap and they can just sit in the ring mansion in LA and do fuck all.
yeah, because like look at that. Because look at that with like Rogue One. They got like Peter Cushing. You know, they resurrected him. They got him to do it. What is so funny is that like is loads of CGI. They spent millions on CGI when really, and then I don't know if you've seen the comparison videos where they use like free deepfake software versus um versus like all these millions of CGI. The deepfake's always better. The
Yeah, I
deepfake's always
saw
better.
that too.
So this is the thing. This is another coming storm, and I actually think you make a really good point there. Basically, the way you would go and the way you have the electronic voices on your phone. Basically, Brad Pitt goes into a recording studio, does a certain amount of, I don't know, recording, scans his face in, and there you go. He licenses out his likeness
And
to
there's no
filmmakers.
need for him to go to fucking like Japan to do a movie or like
Yeah,
Berlin to do a movie. And it's also it keeps them young. Like we
yeah,
always we I know it's not a big deal, but we see actors that we love, we grew up with. They're all obviously older now. You're like, oh shit, I wish
yeah,
we get the Brad Pitt from Fight Club. Don't worry, with this software and this technology, you can get him. He can get him in a
yeah,
new movie. That same six pack. All he needs to do is record his voice. And that's him. He can just sit
yeah.
in his massive mansion and just chill out and reap the rewards. Man, you're on to something here.
I think like, and that's, yeah, like I didn't even consider what you said there. Like that too. I think I think there is a coming storm with like
Yeah.
films and filmmaking that I don't think, like, even I'm kind of trying to work out what it all means, but
But does
I
that
think it's going
mean
to be.
no? Does that mean no? It's just, I mean, I'll be devil's advocate for this technology here.
Go for it. Go for it.
Because we have these old actors that are going to be lived on even for years. If this technology does come out, then it kind of stops new actors from developing them. It stops these no-name actors from getting the main role and becoming the new Brad Pitt, the next George Clooney.
Well, this is the thing. You like you basically sell yourself as like, hi, I was the Brad Pitt in these couple of films. Now I'm going to go and do this kind of thing. I
Yeah.
think I don't think it's going to stop. I don't think it's going to stop anything. I think there'll always be people who want to act, and there'll always be people looking actors. Whether or not you can make a career out of it, I don't know. I think there'll always be room for new stuff because there'll be I'm not the kind of person who goes to see the Aladdin or the Lion King remake. It's like it doesn't appeal to me. I'm always kind of like looking for, I wouldn't say something new, but like something slightly different. Like Blade Runner 2049. It's like it's something new, but
Yeah.
it's kind of old. So I don't know. Like,
To bring it back to like the
go
cinema,
ahead.
and this is a conversation that we used to have a lot while we worked in the cinema. It's like we always thought like the end of the multiplex was coming, and obviously COVID probably sped that up. And there's
Yeah,
two people you meet. There's people who you think like Stephen, for example, who's obviously on this podcast. He would say, and he'd send me videos that the downfall of cinemas is coming. Like there'll be no cinemas in the next 10, 20 years. But then for me, I think I love cinemas so much that I don't even want to consider the idea of a life or growing up without cinemas. So, do you think? Well, my take basically, I don't think cinemas will ever end. Like, I think there's still a market for cinemas. I don't think there would be, as you said, maybe any point in releasing Mulan on in cinemas when you can just release it on Disney Plus and people and the same amount of people, if not more, can download it. But the likes of likes of Blade Runner 2049, like they're the movies you gotta see in the cinema. Even Tenet, for example, which I don't know if you're a fan of. I loved it, and it's a movie I had to see in the cinema. You get that whole experience with the music and all too. And again,
yeah,
obviously, I'm being nostalgic, and I love the cinemas, but some movies you gotta see in the cinema. So I don't think cinemas will ever end, but I think you're
yeah.
right. I think they're definitely going to change. I think it has to change for the customer's experience rather than just for the movie.
I think like this is the thing. Like I like you're saying you're missing like going out for pints and all that. I don't really drink, but like I miss it too, and I think people, it feels like to me that people like being amongst other people, because like even before are we allowed to say the C word, or will you get banned from YouTube or anything like that? Or
No,
I
go
guess
for
I've
it.
said it a couple of times.
Yeah.
I guess like before COVID, like bars and clubs and all were always a ripoff. There's no reason to go to a bar, but yet we would still do it because we're social animals. We like to be amongst other people. We like to be amongst our friends, but we also like to be, among strangers. And I don't, I cinema will probably go the way of like books as well. Bookstores aren't as popular as they once were. So what you'll probably see is like a shoring up. So, just a bigger gap between, the top level and the low level, just they'll widen this gap, and this kind of middle ground will be just kind of taken out. That's what I see. I don't see people do love the cinema. There's people like myself who, yeah, enjoy like the ritual of going to the cinema, and I like sitting in the dark with my fellow man, not speaking to them, just having a kind of communal experience. Like I do think the pandemic and all that has sped up a lot of stuff. For example, like with me, like whenever I would upgrade my phone, I would always go to the car phone warehouse and talk to a wee sales rep, and get it upgraded. I always knew I could do it online, but I liked, maybe they got commission or whatever. I like going in, I like speaking to someone, I like them making recommendations. But the pandemic, I upgraded my phone online, and I'm like, well, I'm never going back to going into a store,
Fuck your
and
commission.
yeah, that's the thing. Like, I mean, and it wasn't my choice. It's like, I see how handy it is. And the same thing, like I use like I use one of those AeroPresses for my coffee. Highly recommend. I'm not an affiliate. This is not an advertisement. You know, I there was a wee coffee shop in town I used to go into whenever I needed to top up my filters, because you want to support local business to an extent. They did good coffee. They did, really friendly staff, really kind of nice area. But then again, the pandemic kicks in. I've bought my filters online. I'll probably never go back to that coffee shop. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things. It's like, well, I've done it now. I have no excuse not to.
Yeah.
So
Have you
I
found
think,
yourself though, even like me and Stephen did almost a wee mini series of like local businesses. Like we got the guys from Coffee and Heroes on, the guy who owned a Foggy Brew, and just like local businesses. They ask him like, what's going on with businesses in Belfast during this pandemic? And it's something that I try to do. Bars are slightly different
yeah,
because there's no like bar chains, is there? You go to a local bar in
no,
Belfast, that is a bar. And you're right, just touch on
yeah,
something you said before. I know I'm all over the place here. I don't miss pints. I just miss being in the room with other
people,
people.
yeah,
Yeah, I miss
yeah,
people. I miss social interaction. But like, I found myself on like whenever like cafes and restaurants open up again, I would avoid like the big ones like Tim Hortons,
yeah,
Costa,
yeah.
and
They're fine.
yeah, Cafe Nero. And I purposely went out of my way to go to like these local places like Old Donuts,
Good.
for example, and like the Foggy Brew and all too, because I think long term they're probably not going to survive, or they're going to find it hard to
Well,
survive.
hold on. They might survive. They might
But you know what I mean?
survive.
Like,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
sorry,
yeah.
I don't want to write them off too soon. I'm like, they're
No,
done.
don't.
That's wash your
Yeah.
hands, lads. Just fuck off with independency. But you know what I mean?
No,
Like Costa, Nero, they're gonna be fine. They probably fucking made more
yeah,
money during this pandemic somehow. Fuck's sake,
yeah.
by selling online shit not too. So I just felt like
Oh no.
personally, I felt like I've actually done the opposite and actually went to independent stores a bit more often in comparison to what I'd done beforehand.
That's interesting. Maybe I don't know. Do you have like a long list on your podcast notes or anything like that of somewhere like I don't know. Give me give me a list, and then maybe I'll try and support these people.
List
But
of coffee places.
coffee places, whatever. Like
Man,
do
you just realize, like, I always went to Nero because I thought Nero's coffee was decent. But then
yeah.
I told myself, let's try to do independent. Let's go to local places here and see what there is. Man, there's so many coffee places in Belfast. Like, there's so many.
Hmm.
Like, there's so many independent ones. And I'm like, I was doing it every time I went for a coffee. I should go like once or twice a week. Just drive to these places and go there. I mean, there's so many of them. Like, you find
Hmm.
yourself not going back to the same one. But yeah, I think you're just kind of, it's Costa, Nero are always in convenient places, aren't they? And that's why they're in the right smack bang in the city centre. We're walking,
Yeah.
like, so I think that's why a lot of people go to them. It's more convenient, and they know it's going to be nice because it is a chain.
Yeah. also the drive-throughs as well.
Oh,
Like
they're so
I was
good,
over
aren't
in I was over in England a lot last year, and yeah, the handiness of the cost of drive-throughs. I've stopped. Sorry, hold on. The throat's going a bit dry. I stopped going to Starbucks altogether because it's just sugar water, basically. So but yeah, I'd like to support more independent people. I'm kind of doing like a bit of a life reset at the minute, so I'm not really eating out or doing any
they?
of that kind of stuff. Not drinking, not eating, avoiding sugar and all that kind of stuff. So, but once it hits about April time, yeah, that's the thing. You're like, once things start to relax, and I'm like, I don't see it happening.
Mhm.
I think
Yeah.
this is us for the foreseeable. I think this is going to be all this year, and then into next year at least.
I think so, yeah, even with the
Oh,
vaccination.
absolutely. My prediction is you're going to start hearing people go, the vaccine's not as effective as we thought it was, so we're going to have to extend. And I've heard from a friend who is a medical professional saying that the vaccine stops you from getting sick, but it doesn't stop you from getting it and testing positive for it. So,
Yeah, carrying it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
But I think
so
maybe okay, you'll be the negative and I'll be the positive person. We'll see us here.
go for it.
I just think once all the vulnerable people are vaccinated, the people with
Yeah.
heart conditions, elderly people,
Yeah.
I think you'll see normality come back. Not the way it was, of course. I think
No.
masks will still be mandatory for next year or so. Like restaurants will probably open, but it'd be all like social distance. Bars would be the same, but it'll be a gradual thing. Like bars probably won't open until like September. That's only if everyone's vaccinated. I think
Yeah.
it will go back to normality eventually, but it's not going to be as quick as we all hope. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely I think a lot of people benefit from us being in our homes a lot. I think there's
Amazon, fuck's sake.
absolutely. This is the thing. Like I wish I bought stock earlier in the. You know what I mean? It's like
Me.
it's absolutely great. Like the thing is, the people who the same. What do you see? The same people who are telling you now that the lockdowns need to go on for longer. Whenever it starts to relax, they're going to be like, I think we should try and tax Jeff Bezos more. And I'm just like, good luck. Good luck. It's just like, I don't know. It like that whole thing, it just seems to be loads of small businesses have just been decimated. There's just been a massive kind of roll up of power, for like these big, massive corporations. Walmart's fine, Amazon's fine, Tesco, Sainsbury's, and all those guys, they'll all be fine. They'll all do well. They
Mhm.
probably get loads in bailout money as well.
Did you not
But
hear what happened? Like it's on the news. They have like obviously supposedly in the north have 100 million money they need to spend before like I think it's March or April because of like the whole tax year
right,
because they didn't actually like give enough people money. So they're
right.
worrying if they don't spend this 100 million by like April or end of March, they need to give it back. I'm like,
And they don't get it again. Yeah,
just like
yeah,
just give it to people, then give it to small
yeah. Just
businesses.
give it
They're
to
just
people.
like, we don't know what to do with it. There's people who actually have no jobs, and I give it to them.
Yep,
They're just like, what do we do with this 100 million? Well, do you think Amazon need more money? Fucking twats.
that's what they'll do. Like this, like 2020, just really like it felt like it exposed, like it really made it clear to me. Like I'm always pretty sure that I don't know what I'm talking about, and I'm pretty sure that the people around me don't really know what they're talking about. But I did not realize that nobody knows what they're talking about. Even the people who should know what they're talking about don't
Yeah.
know what they're talking about. Everybody, you're just like, all right, everyone's just kind of putting a brave face on the fact that they're massively incompetent. So that's
Mhm.
kind of what that was one of the valuable lessons that 2020 taught me. So
No, you're right, and I think obviously we're a divided country, aren't we? I mean, no beating around the bush here. In terms of like sectarianism and all, too, a lot of people, you're either one side or the other. Not everyone, just saying a lot of people do see that
yeah,
still. They still see that. But I think what COVID has real like kind of exposed is that they're all twats. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
Sinn Féin, DEP, they're all twats. Don't worry,
yes,
they're
yeah,
all they're almost a part of the elite. Like we're all the working class, and that's a good thing. I had
yep,
Jerry Carroll on from People Before Profit, and he basically says like people need to remember working class or lower working class people in the Catholic community have more in common with lower class people in the Protestant community. It's class. It's not about sectarianism. It's not about.
Mate,
Go ahead, sorry.
sorry. Yeah, I'll go and I'll watch that episode because
Yeah.
it sounds like Jerry Carroll and I would get on quite well. Remember years ago, remember like back in 2008, 2010, 2000, whatever, it was all about Occupy Wall Street, and break up the big banks and all that kind of stuff. That has disappeared. That has disappeared completely. And part of me thinks, is the whole identity politics, the whole sectarianism stuff, is that all some kind of like, oh, this is where I kind of start to sound a bit like a conspiracy theorist. I'm like, is that a means of control? It's like, oh no, your problem isn't with the banks, it's with that person over there who's kind of the same as you, but just ever so slightly different, and I'm just like, I have just lost absolute faith in so many things, and I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing, and I hope it doesn't come back.
There's a thing I want to touch on because Zoom only give you 45 minutes to do a podcast, which is not enough. It's the thing you've been not tweeting about. Maybe you have been tweeting about, but I don't go on Twitter. It was on Instagram about universities. I think we talked about it before, but what is your problem with universities, fuck's sake?
I think they're just a massive pyramid scheme.
So you don't think? I think
no.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, let me just clarify my point. I think there are obviously useful degrees. I think, if you want to be a lawyer, doctor,
engineer.
Yeah. Engineer.
So
there you go. That's like, it's all the stupid shit that they do. Like, I think, like, I did film studies and it was a waste of fucking time. I've been learning more about filmmaking basically from like myself and like maybe a couple of YouTube videos and all that, and maybe like one or two like kind of online courses and all that. But like, I just think they're just this big entity that don't really do anything, and like my film studies degree could have been a year. It could have been 6 months, but it just seems like it's just way too expensive, and it gets people into massive debt. Like, I don't really have any expertise or knowledge about this, but I just kind of feel like we should just forgive a lot of student debt, because it's just, these people are never going to pay that off. It's just a big massive load of money that people are owing for the rest of their lives. And I'm just like I don't have a student loan, I don't have any student debt, but I'm just like, just write it off. Just write it off. You can do it. If
Go ahead, sorry.
Go ahead.
No,
you go ahead.
You're agreeing with Jerry Carroll, and now you're saying we should get rid of student debt. Kieran, have you become a socialist in the last 12 months?
No, I would actually say I've probably become more of an anarchist. I think we need to break everything down. Government, we need to get rid of it all. It's not working for us, baby. Kick it out. I think the United States should break up. I think they should, just become the states that happen to be America instead of the United States. Just things are no longer serving us in the way that they should.
So just to clarify, you obviously don't mean get rid of universities as a whole. You mean the whole concept of universities now. Like with all these art degrees and stuff, you think that you're probably best suited, because we talked about this, so I know what you're on about. Like you think like if someone who wants to study art is probably better fitted to go actually work in an art gallery. Someone who wants to study movie is probably better working on a movie set in comparison to working in in a lecture hall.
And this is the beauty of like the internet. You would be better off not even like going on a movie set or going in an art studio. Just start painting, start making movies, start writing. And that would be like, there was a girl who you and I used to work with, and she was like, "Oh, I'm doing media studies," or whatever, or something like that. And I was like, for like 3 years, I was like, drop out. And now she has finished, and she was always like a good photographer, but like her work is going from bam, 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 bam. And I'm like, if you hadn't wasted your time, not wasted, but like, you know what I mean? If you had just got into doing the photography, you'd be, I don't know. But I mean, she seems happy. She's doing really well.
Yes, she
her
is,
work is great. and I wish her all the best. I was just always like, every time I spoke to her, I was like, drop out.
Okay,
You know?
to be devil's advocate, a lot of people go to universities, it sounds cheesy, to find themselves and also maybe find a bit more. I know I'm not saying find themselves spiritually or emotionally, but to have that confidence to do it. So if you're taught in a way to hold the camera, take a photo, and be confident in yourself, then you're going to be able to use that in the outside world. If you don't have that experience, then okay, being devil's advocate, I agree. I think sometimes art degrees need to be maybe a bit more hands-on rather than in a lecture hall. But yeah, I think some people benefit from having that experience rather than just getting thrown into here, fend for yourself, go and get a photography job somewhere else.
I don't think you need to spend, I don't know, how much is it now for university?
It's like $3,000 a year, is it? No.
Three grand a year. It was 3 grand a year, I think, whenever I did it, but like it's definitely way more than that now.
Was it?
I would say, I think so. I think just who knows? Either way, you don't need to get yourself in debt for the rest of your life for a wee bit of confidence. Go interrailing.
I did that twice.
There you go, and look at you.
Look at me now. My own podcast.
Look at you.
Look at this.
You
Look
learned,
at this.
you learned engineering while interrailing.
Good and tog. Okay, just to clarify again, because I think it's slightly different though. Like our student debt in comparison to American student debt is obviously not as substantial, but we also don't have this rigid system in pen it back. So the ways our work, we don't have to pay for it up front, and we get student loans and student grants to actually help us throughout the year. So ours is obviously a far better system in comparison to America, but also we only start paying it back once you earn over, I think it's 21,000 a year. You start paying back like £30. So it isn't that much. And obviously, if you earned 30,000, it's a bit more. But so our system isn't really that bad in comparison. It doesn't really affect your in terms of if you want to borrow money to buy a car, to buy a house, your student loan doesn't affect that here. While in America, it's a bit different. It's really important to clear that off. I have friends in America who've done university degrees, and when I hear what their stories are like in comparison to ours seems like a walk in the park. So I think it's a bit of a disclaimer because you posted a few things talking with some guy, all that's like £100,000 debt. Ours are slightly different out there. Like masters, for example, are all
that's fair enough.
And PhDs you get paid for, so you don't pay any of that back. So slightly different, but I do agree with your concept, to be fair.
I just think to have debt hanging over your head is just not a good way to be, especially one that's like just seems so insurmountable. And it like you're obviously an adult whenever you get like a student loan and all that. But
are you though?
I don't know.
Your mind's
That's
not
the
adult.
thing. That's the thing. You know, it just seems like when I went to school, like when I went to like secondary school, it was just it just seemed to be gearing you towards going to uni. You didn't actually seem to be learning anything. You just had to get good grades so you could get into uni, so they could put in their wee balance sheet. Look how many of our students went to university. You know,
exactly.
So, and it just I don't know. I think education's due a shake up as well.
That's what I was going to touch on. Like, do you think universities in itself, okay, because you gotta cater for everyone, so there has to be an art school or art college.
Okay,
anyway. But in terms of how we almost like, as you said, the schools and secondary schools, especially when I want to, they just want you to get in university. They just want you to get past. They don't really want to actually facilitate what strengths you had, because you know what I mean. It's like, oh, like if I want to do a hard, like for me, it's always really weird because I'm not a smart kid. I'm man now. I'm not a smart person. I'm not. I never have been. I'm not.
Yeah, don't look. Here's another thing. Just a second. This is another thing we're going to do in 2021. We're not going to speak badly of ourselves anymore. We're going to.
You mean? Sorry, I'm not. Things don't come easy to me, if that makes sense. Like I have brothers who just like pick up things. I have friends who pick up things and know things. Why I'm like, I need to read this by myself in a quiet room with no noise to understand. No, that way. So okay, I'm not. Okay, I just don't pick up things quicker.
You have a varied learning style. You have a unique learning. You have a unique knowledge acquisition.
So when I was like doing English in school, which I fucking hate English, I still hate English. I find it really hard to read books and stuff. I need to do it. I need to obviously improve upon that. But when it came to science and maths, I just things came so naturally to me. But because my grades weren't great in other subjects, they was like, you're not going to be doing well. So here, we'll push you towards easier subjects. Here you go. Just because they know
Right.
if I do that there, I'll get a grade. As you said, they'll tick on their box. Oh, we had like 80% of our class got like 5 or more GCSEs, rather than pushing me towards something that I really cared about. So you think almost secondary schools and schools in general need to be more catered towards the individual rather than just the masses? Maybe teach
Ooh.
English, maths, and science, but almost like have their own subjects. Like, what do you really love? Do you love painting? Do you love making movies? Let's fucking do this here. Or do you
Yeah.
love doing maths at a higher level? Let's do this here. But it's more like they kind of have subjects created for the masses rather than the individual.
Well, it's always going to be sorry, pardon me. It's always going to be catered towards the masses because, there's more money to be made out of like 30 people than there is out of one person. I just I don't I think you got a nice idea there, but I just financially it's not in a school's interest to do that.
Mm-hmm. You're probably right. I just think sometimes, I know for me, like I felt school was so uncomfortable. I didn't feel like I done well, but somehow I walked out with a biomedical engineering degree with honors. You know what I mean? So I'm like, was I stupid, or just was the actual setup in school really not to my fitting?
Yeah,
That
it
makes
wasn't.
sense.
Yeah, it wasn't configured. Well, the thing with me, with school with me, I like whenever I did my 11 plus, everyone was like, "This is the most important exam of your life," and I was like, "Oh shit, I better study really hard." And then I did well 11 plus. Then I got in the first year, and they go, the exams that you do at the end of this year are the most important in your life." And I was like, "Oh god, I better study really hard." And I did pretty well. And then second year they go, "The exams," and I was like, "Hold on, they cannot all be the most
Yeah.
important exams." So then I coasted for a couple of years, and well, I coasted for quite a few years, to be honest. But I still I did all right. I did the bare minimum. School taught me to do the bare minimum to get by.
Mhm.
You don't want to do too well. You don't want to expend too much energy and do really well, because that's just a waste of time. But you don't want to be doing so badly that you get into trouble or you're put on lists or anything like that. So yeah, I think school gave me like a bad attitude to work, and I still feel like I'm kind of making up for lost time, kind of even now.
Do you,
I'm way. Go ahead, sir.
no, sorry. I just want to jump in there because I had this really like I still have this. I still live with this thing. I have this like weird feeling about having a desire and goals and stuff. Not be I find it easy to set goals and targets and stuff, but as a career, I never really had that one thing. Do you ever see people like our friend you talked about there? She always had this desire and to be a photographer. So you push towards that. I have friends who want to make movies. They push towards that. But for me growing up, I always felt this was really strange because I was kind of relating to your post last night about becoming 30 or like in your 30s, where people were talking about like, oh, you need to get everything sorted in your 20s so you can live your life in your 30s, which I
Yeah,
felt almost gave me social and just anxiety in general because I didn't have any sort of drive and determination to do that one thing. And I
yeah,
always thought eventually you'll find it. And I find it even now, being 27 years old, I have no desire to do one thing. And I always
yeah.
felt like that everything else suffers because of it, if that makes sense. Like I love movies, I love doing the podcast, I love doing YouTube, I love my job, I love like maths and engineering and stuff. But I don't love it that much, if you get me. I don't have that one thing.
I think, I think that's fair enough. I think that's fine. I kind of feel similar to you, but at the same time, you're doing the right thing by doing all these different things. So I think, Dan, keep doing what you're doing, and maybe something will pop out to you. But it's good to have all these kind of different skills in all these different areas, which you've got. Like some people are super focused into one area, and I don't know what you're like, but I feel like if I was like that, I would get so bored and I would just lose all kind of interest in it. I feel like if I'm locked into something, I just immediately I'm like, it's not for me, mate.
Yeah. But then I question myself, was would I be doing better in my current field now, or would I be doing better on the podcast if I was just homing in on this thing? if I just was so committed to doing the podcast, quit my job, let's do it, let's make this work, would I
Yeah.
be able to make it successful in comparison to what it is now? Why now I'm just like almost just getting by, just enjoying it for what it is, but not really pushing myself to actually make it a career or make it my forte or make it my thing. That makes sense.
Well, I mean, like, do you want to be a podcaster full time? I mean, that's the question. You know,
I don't even know. That's my
there you go. There you go. Like,
that's the mean. I don't know what I want to do in my life. I think that's the and I'm coming 28 in a few months. I'm like, fuck. My 20s are almost over, and I still don't really know what my life's gonna be in like 20, 30 years.
mate, I'm 34, and I'm still not too sure what I want to do. You know, I've got I know a rough idea. I know it's going to involve writing in some form and being creative, but you know what shape that takes. Like this whole idea of like you have to know what the 2020 should have taught you that nobody knows anything about anything. You know,
Yeah.
and like it's fair enough. Keep doing what you're doing, man. You know, you seem to be you're doing well.
Thank you, sir.
If you focused on this podcast, you might end up hating the podcast and just binning it. Whereas, like, if you kind of keep it going over time, keep doing it consistently, like you're doing now, who knows? You know, I feel like if you keep working, just in general, something will pop out to you. Something will take your interest, and then you'll know. But like this whole, I have to know what I'm doing by the time I'm 30. You don't. It's a myth. It is a myth. And I think it's a myth pushed on people by miserable people. So you will be miserable just like them. So just ignore it. Just keep doing what you're doing, man. You're doing great.
I know. I was thank you, mate. I've been recently reading a book. It's Chasing the Light. It's an Oliver Stone book. You know Oliver Stone, the film director.
Yeah.
He released a book, his memoirs up until he released Platoon, and it's so interesting because you look at Oliver Stone. Don't know if you like him or not, but I love him. And I'm like, he's so successful. He's won like 4 or 5 Oscars and stuff for like screenplays, for being a director for movies and stuff.
Yeah.
And he's made so much shit his whole life. There's so much movies, documentaries. I think he's a very interesting human being. But like, he was like 31 when he moved to LA. You're just like,
Yeah.
wow, you're 31. Like we obviously both probably see Oliver Stone as this success story. We see him as this incredible person in Hollywood. But I'm like, you were 31 when you started doing it. Like that's so weird because if I'm 31 and I still don't know what I'm doing, I would be panicking, if that makes sense. But now I'm getting to the point where like I have my job, which is technically a career then. But then I'm like, imagine I didn't have that there, but he was still like believing in himself, and he's like, I'm going to go to Hollywood, make it. If I don't, I'll come back to New York and be a taxi driver. I'm like, fuck me, to have that self belief still in that age. I don't know. I just think it's so interesting reading that book, and then I always find it interesting that people find their careers later in life. If that makes sense. I always find that so fascinating, or almost redeveloping themselves in later life.
I feel like it feels like that's more of the norm. People find themselves later in life. Like Steve Martin's no different. He gave himself till he was like 30 to make it as a stand-up, and then it took and he hit 30 and he hadn't made it as a stand-up, so he's like, right, I'll give myself 2 more years, and he did it. You know, Harold Ramis, my hero. He was 40 whenever Ghostbusters came out. Like he was always doing stuff, but you know, this whole myth of like, you know, you have to have everything in order by 20. It's not true. It's like they're like the exception to the rule, but you're treated like it's the norm, and it's not the norm. So
I don't mean like to have everything sorted. I mean like at least know what you want that way. If you want to be a comedian, stand-up comedian, if you want to be a writer, then by the time you're 30, you know you want to do it, regardless if you're successful or not. I think that's what I mean. I don't mean you need to be successful at 30. I mean like you need to know what you want. Then by that age, not to have it done, but to know what you want to do in the next 5 years.
But like the thing is, like you're being proactive though. That's the thing. Like you're doing the podcast, you're doing, you know, you've got your job, and you know, you've got other things that you know, as what I'm saying is you're not sitting on your hands being like, oh, I hope I get inspiration. Oh, I hope I know what happens to me. You know, you're putting yourself out there, you're doing stuff, which is more than can be said for a lot of people. I know, you know, so just keep doing what you're doing, man. Something will grab you at some point. You're doing the right thing. Just keep doing it. You know.
Thank you, mate. So before we go, I think I want to touch on 2021. What are your goals? Like, do you have any? I hate being that cliche. Do you have a New Year's resolution? You're gonna lose some more weight. But I mean, do you have anything? I felt personally the last few years I've just set goals for myself, more targets, like get my degree,
Yeah.
get the apartment, do X, Y, and Z. I think that, for me it's always better. Do you do anything like that, or do you have like anything you want to get done this year, or you aim to do this year?
Yeah, I think I want to get a book published. Another book published. Maybe two. I'd like to get two books published. I've got a few ideas for one. There's one in development in the minute. I'd like to do one or two maybe short films, and then I try and like to do a feature film for no money, kind of towards the end of the year, kind of thing, with like a very limited cast, obviously, with how things will probably be. But yeah, I've got a few goals.
Do you mind touching on them books? Like, what's the story about them? Or do you want to talk about
yeah,
them?
the working title for the first book is A Provie Shoots a Cop. Because it's kind of semi based on my mate who is a policeman who was shot at, and I was just thinking, I was like, I wonder how much for them to shoot at a police officer. I'm like, I wonder how much kind of planning goes into that, I don't think they just rock up and be like, right, let's shoot at them, So I'm kind of developing that. And
is it a serious book, or is it going to be more of a comical?
It's probably going to kind of play to my own kind of influences. It's kind of going to be kind of jokey, We'll see. I don't know. It's not been written yet. I haven't even really started outlining it yet, but I hope to have that out, because I can write really fast now, which really helps
I
me.
saw that. So how fast can you write your posting? Like, you write what's your fastest then?
Oh God, I don't have any stats or anything like that, but I'm pretty much up to I can do probably 1,000 words an hour, maybe.
Jesus. But is that you just making up the story as you go along? Like, you almost just writing it, or is it your idea?
You see, because I like do super detailed outlines of either blog posts or short stories or whatever it is I'm working on, and I just kind of fire through that. So it depends what I'm working on, but pretty much it averages out about maybe probably not 1,000, maybe closer to 800, 900 words per hour, and so, which is good because now I can actually, if I'm going to do a writing project, if I'm going to do something like a book, I can actually map it out and then be like, well, all I need to do is this, because I'm quite lazy. I'll try and work out the most bare minimum way I can do something with expending the minimum amount of effort.
So you're doing this because that means you can spend a weekend and writing a whole book. Is that why you train yourself to write that fast? So it's not like a book. Some people take weeks or years to write
months,
a book. Yeah. So you're like, I can just write this really quick of a weekend. The first draft, then the second draft, and the third draft and stuff.
Yeah. The thing is, it's to have a book out there, but again, authors, everything's getting a massive shakeup. You're not just an author, you are a proofreader, you're an editor, you're a copywriter, you're a PR person. You have all these different stacks on top of being a writer. I did this course recently by a guy on Twitter. He's called the Prometheus, and he kind of opened my eyes to this whole idea of you're not just an author. You're not just working on one book. You have all these different talents that you're using, and you can bring them to other people. Because I've been helping people with editing their ebooks, proofreading them, and all that kind of stuff. So if I get more
screenplays as well, aren't you? Sorry, screenplays. You're helping people with their screenplays as well.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yes, I'm doing stuff for me, but I whenever I would encounter other filmmakers and other screenwriters and people who were in the business, every time I'd be like, oh, what did here? I loved your short, or I loved your whatever that you did. What did you shoot that on? And they go, and they would be secretive. They would be there's this weird secretiveness of if they tell me what kind of camera or what kind of lenses they used, I'm going to run off and use it as if it's a super secret information, or I can't work on it myself. But I don't like that snobbiness that kind of comes with things. I think everybody has the potential to be a really good writer. I think most people are naturally good writers. They just lack that confidence, or they're told you wrote that in an hour. Well, it's obviously not going to be good because it takes you years to write something good. I think that's a load of bullshit. This whole idea of like starving artists and all this kind of like, ooh, suffering. I posted this meme in this writers group, and it was basically like on one side it was like it was called like, it's that the Virgin and the Chad meme.
No, I haven't seen that. No.
I'll send it to you after. But like
Yeah.
on one side it's like you have the Virgin and he's all like slumped over, and it's all like oh, I'm an author, I need a literary agent, I need this, that, and that, all these kind of like author cliches. I need 5 years to write my book. And on the other side it was like, has 5 books out in 1 year, editing and proofreading services, blah 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 blah. And I posted this and I was like, isn't this funny? And they went into absolute meltdown. People were saying,
really?
You're disturbed. You're disturbed. I really hope no literary agent sees this post that you made, because you're going to be blacklisted. I was like, what the hell would a literary agent have to offer me? Get out of here. I can publish my own fucking books. Like, that's the thing. The gatekeepers, we're getting rid of the gatekeepers. COVID has helped us see that there's no need for gatekeepers. And I think we're living in exciting times. I think we've got a couple of rough years ahead of us, but I think afterwards we'll be all the better for it. So
yeah. I think we leave it there, man. Nice we note to leave it on there. But
before we go, can I just say it's been great talking to you. Thank you for having me on. I'm so sorry I haven't been in touch as much. It's been good. It's been good talking to you. Congratulations on your engagement. And,
thank you, sir.
Wish you all the best for the wedding. Yeah, it's been good talking to you. Thank you for having me on. Keep doing what you're doing, because you're doing some great work, man.
You are now listening to MCPodcasting.